Welcome to ResoLex RADAR Talks. Today I am here with Rudi Klein, the Chief Executive of the Special Engineering Contractors Group and Chairman of the NEC Users Group. Rudi, good morning.
Good morning.
So we've seen a variety of reports coming out specifying challenges within the construction and infrastructure industry. Do you see at the moment that we need a step change and a redesign of how the industry goes to market, or are incremental changes going to be enough?
I think it's probably both. I think we need incremental changes, and I think we need very radical changes, because industry, like people, moves at different paces. So we need to bring the slower ones with us, we need to bring the faster ones with us. So we need to do something that's extremely radical, extremely different from what we've done at the moment, or doing at the moment. We also have to do things that are perhaps just a little change from what we're doing at the moment. So we have to do both, I think.
So from your point of view, Rudi, and obviously representing your members, are there any big issues that you see need to be addressed now?
I think there are three, and I call them the three Ps. I think the first is procurement. Of course, we have to address that. The next is payment, and the next is professionalism. We have to professionalise the industry, make the industry more competent, increase standards, improve standards. So those are the three things. I call them the three Ps.
So if we could take the first of your three Ps then, Rudi, what are the steps that we can take on procurement?
Well, I think the first is that we do need a radical change in the way we do procure. We've been procuring the same way for about 150 years or so. We need to fundamentally change that, I think. One of the things I'm particularly interested in is integrated project insurance. And we've had some pilots on that. And what we're trying to do there is to ensure that we've got the supply chain involved early, the supply chain be allowed to innovate, be allowed to partake in the design process, agreeing design outcomes with consultants, all other members of the team, so that in fact then we come to a cost plan that's agreed with the client, that's based on design outcomes, risk management, and that ensures, as far as the client is concerned, that that cost plan is credible. No cost plans are credible at the moment, because in fact they're not underpinned by a risk management, proper risk management process. And at the end, when that cost plan is agreed, then it will be insured. And that is the idea. But the most important point about that is that we've got the whole team engaged from the outset. And
the second of your Ps being payment, what should we be looking at there?
Well, we often hear that old cliche that cash flow is lifeblood of the industry, and of course it's as true today as it ever was. We have had obviously a situation of recent years where payment in the industry has got worse and worse. Payment periods have got longer, people have gone into insolvency and so on. So we've got to change the way we pay people in the industry so that people's cash flow is improved, because without cash flow we can't do much. And that means, I believe, that we've got to look very close at things like project bank accounts. I was interested that Australia, or one of the states in Australia, has legislation for project bank accounts. So I'd like to see these right across the board, because project bank accounts enable everybody to get paid from the same pot. It also helps collaboration, because people are actually getting paid together and at the same time. So that's, I think, the first thing we need to address. I'd like to think that we'd also crack the retention problem. Millions and millions of pounds are being lost because of upstream insolvencies. The industry is hemorrhaging almost £1 million each working day. This is £1 million worth of retention each working day because of insolvencies. So we've got to address, that's a lot of money to lose. So we've got to address these problems. Without seriously addressing them, without making a difference there, we're not going to do much else.
And around professionalism, then, the last of your three Ps, what are the steps that the industry needs to take?
Yeah, the problem with the UK construction industry, as Sir John Egan said about 20 years ago, is that, or probably even longer than that, is that we don't have any barriers to entry. Anybody can come into the construction industry. That means to say that there are firms in the industry who come in, who get work, can provide lowest price, but they're not investing in skills, they're not investing in the technologies, and yet they're able to grab work at the expense of reputable firms who do that kind of investment. So we've got to, I believe, over the longer term, look at legislation that licensing firms coming in the industry as capable, as having the technical proficiency to do the work they say they're capable of doing. I mean, we are behind in all this because we've got the United States that does it. Most states in the United States have a licensing system for firms. Australia the same. Some European EU states have it too. So we've got to look at this, I think, in order to raise standards, and of course that is very, very topical as well.
We've talked about your 3 Ps and the desire to address those. Are there any initiatives out there at the moment that you see have the ability to address them?
Well, I think I've already made reference to one of those, which is integrated project insurance, and I think that represents for us the best hope of change, real change, radical change, because one of the things we've talked about for years and years and years is trying to get early involvement from the supply chain, where all the value is, where all the innovation is, but that innovation, that value is not properly released, and for it to be properly released, they have to be really involved from the outset, particularly engineering elements of the supply chain. Unless we really address that, we're not going to change, certainly not fundamentally anyway. And the integrated project insurance allows us to do that, and it means that we get the whole team working together from the outset in a very integrated way. I mean, we've talked about integration for years. I mean, it was Sir John Eagle's report, Rethinking Construction. We talked about it, but that's all we've done. We've just talked about it. And we have at the moment a situation where we have a very disintegrated delivery process. We've got between 50 and 70 subcontractors, tier 1 subcontractors, and then we've got subcontractors working on projects. But 50 to 70 is a lot. Think about all those interfaces. Think about all the inefficiencies that all creates. Think about the costs, the overheads, the contingencies, the profits. All the things have to be built into that very disintegrated process. That, of course, depresses productivity, depresses efficiencies. So we've got to overcome this. But at the moment, other than IPI, or integrated project insurance, I don't see a lot that is there that's really going to change things. I mean, if I may add, the Construction Leadership Council has a sector deal that is about emphasising the need for industry to invest in digital manufacturing technologies. But unless you also address some of these structural problems we have in the industry and its delivery models, then we're not going to get anywhere, in my view.
So we've looked at the current initiatives available. Do you have a vision for the future where the right investment is available and the real drive for this integrated delivery model is available and is driving the industry forward?
Well, I think my vision really is this, Ed, that we have to move to a point where we are getting away from the current situation where the majority of projects are over time, over cost, and the quality is not always there. So my vision would be to address that, is that we've got to attract investment into the industry. We've got £600 billion worth of infrastructure pipeline at the moment. Where the money is going to come for that, I just don't know. So how do we attract the investment? How do we then address that? And the only way you can address that is to address the risks that there are in the industry. I mean, we had last year, I think it was last year or the year before, Aviva, one of the biggest insurance companies, £300 billion worth of company. The managing director said, I think it's about 2016, said, look, we're happy to invest in the industry, but we've got no assurance that risk management will be properly carried out. We'll come into the industry, we'll put money into infrastructure if government will help us or share the risk. What I'd like to see is the ability to be able to address risk and to demonstrate that risk is properly being addressed. And so what I'd like to see is a situation where, for the future, an insurance company will say, or insurers will say, we have insured this cost plan as capable of being delivered within the time and cost represented by it. and we will insure it and will issue a certificate of insurance. And then when that certificate is issued, then investors, the taxpayer as well, can have the assurance that that project will be delivered according to that cost plan, subject of course to an access that will have to be shared by the team delivering it. And so I'd like to see for the future then, nothing happens, nothing is built until everything is properly risk managed, that everything is integrated. You can't risk manage without integration anyway, that's big, people talk to each other about risk. But once you get that, then you have the delivery process insured, the cost plan insured, and then that certificate represents the fact that that project now can go ahead. And so the investors can partly, the taxpayer can be happier, the government can be happier, everybody can be happier. And that to me is the only way we can go here.
So Rudi, thank you very much for your insight there into the challenges and future vision for the industry, and well, let's fingers crossed that we get there in the end.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ed. I mean, it does require people who are committed to this. I mean, we could only achieve anything if there are people in the industry who are passionate about change, who want change, and are working together to achieve it. If there aren't sufficient people to do that, we might not get it. But we need people to come forward and say, yeah, we want change. And we're not going to, in fact, depend on the usual processes that are out there for change, because in fact we have not seen change in all these years, or radical change in all these years. We've got to really be passionate and drive that change.
Thank you very much, Rudi Klein.
My pleasure.